Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Sam, I'm an artist, illustrator and aspiring knitting designer coming to you from Dublin in Ireland. And if you are new to my channel, this is my attempt of what used to be a full-on knitting podcast in which I have been talking about my works in progress, new works, finished works, as acquisition, as a general knitting podcast is. Lately I have been updating you all about my general endeavor as a creator, as an artist, as a knitter, as a crafter. So literally everything that is happening in my artistic life, everything outside the 9 to 5 office work that unfortunately or luckily I am still doing. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. There's been a lot of new viewers on this channel lately, and I'm really happy for that, humbled, glad, like a lot of emotions. I had said many times that because I live in a big city, is not quite easy for me as an introvert as well to have a knitting group, a crafting group, a group of artists to hang out with. So for me, you guys, you all are my knitting group, my companions, the people that I learn from when it comes to crafting knitting, where I try to find inspirations from. I was just checking out literally a couple of hours after I'm filming. I was checking out Kia's Bod podcast. I will link her below here in the description. She is a podcaster, but a beautiful knitter out of Sweden. And I had to comment on her channel how much she is of an inspiration for me in terms of designs, patterns that she finds, yarn that she uses. So this to say that this community that is growing around my channel really is helping me as a creator. So thank you so much for being here. Anyway, it's been a while. I haven't been knitting a lot. I haven't been creating a lot of artworks. It's a bit of a swamp for personal reasons and as well for, no, just personal reasons actually. I'll give you a brief update on live stuff and then we can jump in finished works, works in progress, and books I'm reading, artworks, anything else. So there's been a lot of changes in my office job and I have been kind of stepping into a different position, what used to be my manager's work before, and it's taking a lot of time. There's no pay rise, if I can say that loud. I'm sure none of my bosses are watching this. Well, anyway, it's been a shifting of responsibilities among my workplace, and I had acquired without asking a lot of new things to do, so way less time to dedicate to my crafting. But I try to keep up with the crafting nevertheless. Let's just jump into the finished works and then I can give you some more life update as we go through. So yeah, you see it in all its glory. Here it is. This is the finished work for this month and I'm stoned. Let me give you a back side view. It's absolutely glorious, absolutely gorgeous, from the color to the construction to the jumper. the best thing I've knitted in a long time in terms of that I'm happy with. First of all, the pattern. The pattern is for sale. So I can't really go into details, a detailed description of the pattern, because you have to pay for it. But I will give you all the tricks that I use to make this fit myself. The pattern, by the way, is called Sirena sweater. Sirena sweater. I have no idea what's the right English pronunciation. I'll put it here or below in the description. You'll be able to find the links. It's a pattern for sale by Cookie the Knitter, and it's gorgeous. So there is a companion pattern, same construction, same yarn weight, but different motif, that is called the Sibylla sweater, and that is quite famous as a pattern. I'm seeing a lot of projects. But this one only had a handful of projects, but it really attracted me for this big piece of motif in the center. Anyway, I warmly recommend you to check the pattern because it's absolutely great. It's not the cheapest, but it's really worth it. The pattern itself, it's really clearly explained. I haven't found any issue with the pattern. As you know myself, I am a lover of knitting cables when the jumper, the garment, is knitted in the round. I couldn't be arsed to, sorry for the bad word, but I couldn't be bothered to knitting in pieces. I don't know how to do that. I tried many times. I don't have the mind space to learn to knit in pieces and then sew up. I have no idea how sizing works and so on. So knitted in pieces it is. This jumper, the Sirena sweater, and the companion Sibylla sweater are knitted in the round. So I bought both of them, and they are absolutely great. I need to cast on the other one very soon. Anyway, knitted in the round from the top down with, again, very clear instruction. I was astonished about how easy the designer made this thing come together. You knit the bit of the front, the bit of the back, you join in the collar, as many jumpers are working. You knit down in a separate back and front until you get to the arm opening, the end of the arm opening. Join in the round, I go down towards the body. Bob's your uncle. Pick up stitches for the sleeves, and we'll go back to that in a second, but that is once again very easily explained. Knit the sleeves, and that's done. The jumper itself, as the pattern describes it, tells you how to make it. It's for a, I would say, more female-oriented body. It's quite cropped. It has 25 to 30 centimeters of positive ease, which is a lot for me. And the sleeves are open sleeves, large big sleeves with minimal decreasing for the sleeve itself. Now, considering the lack of cable sweaters knitted in the round patterns, I had very limited choice in what I could find on Ravelry or another website, so I had to make some modification to make the sweater to fit me well, while having a pattern knitted in the round and so on and so forth. So if you are interested in knitting this jumper, in bracket, I'm conscious that the vast majority of you watching are probably women or female people, And you're probably interested in knitting a jumper like this for a male friend, your husband, your boyfriend, your cousin, your brother. Get a piece of paper and take notes, because I will tell you everything that I did to make this kind of female jumper written pattern suit myself and a more male type of body. So let's start from the very beginning. I had to make the shoulders a bit wider. I'm not really wide-shouldered myself, but as you may expect, my shoulders are a bit wider than the pattern would recommend. I started with first size because I consider the 25 centimeters of positive ease that I didn't want, for example, here or on the chest or on the sleeves. I didn't want the big ease, I just wanted the garment to fit me. So first size, following the exact same gauge that the pattern gives you. Shoulder, we were saying, my shoulders are a bit wider than the first size in the pattern would recommend. So what did I do there? You see, we do have a row here of how could I explain this? Is it moss stitch? Yeah, of moss stitch. This is part of the pattern. So I added some stitches there to make the sleeves just a little bit wider on both sides. First modification that I done is that one. Going down, we join in the body. And as you may expect, a female chest body is a bit larger on this side and a bit narrower on the back side. I did adjust the count of my moss stitch on each side, which in the end becomes this part here on the underarm. This is all a panel of moss stitch. I adjust that by taking out a couple of moss stitches on the front and adding at the back. At the end it was exactly the same number of stitches, but I just added to the back and removed from the front, so to shift everything backwards a little bit. My back is a bit wider and my chest a bit flatter, so makes sense. Now, going down towards the body, feels like I'm giving you a lesson in anatomy, but it's not what I wanted to achieve here. Anyway, going down through the body is very wide. We need to keep in mind that the pattern has been written for a 25 centimeters of positive ease. But I do want my waist to cinch in a little bit and get the waistband to sit tight on my hip. So going down at the body, I decreased 4 stitches on each side at a regular stage going down, so to create like a cone shape towards the end where the ribbing is one by one, ribbing takes place. And to do so, I'm showing again my underarm, I decrease stitches right at the edge of the moss stitch towards the first cable motif. So as you can see, or you can imagine, cable motif, 2 purse stitches, moss stitch. I cinched one of the purse stitches into the first moss stitch. Does it make sense? This is the let's say 4 stitches of the cable, 2 purse stitches, and then we start with the moss stitch. The first moss stitch is combined with the first purse stitch on each side, so it disappears completely. I use this same way to decreasing on the sleeves as well. Let's jump there quite quickly. Sleeves, very wide in the pattern. I want to get the same effect of funneling into the cuff. So I decrease at a regular stage 7 or 8 times, quite a bit of decreases, much more than the pattern recommends. Once again, at the very edge of the moss stitch on each side, here and here, you can see moss stitch, pearl rows, and first cable. Then we have other pearl rows, cable, pearl rows, cable, pearl rows, moss stitch. Between the moss stitch and the pearl rows, I install my decreasing. So one of the pearls and one of the moss together, following, of course, the pearl and knit pattern of the moss stitch. And they absolutely disappear. You can't see where they are. I think this is a great suggestion for the situation. Then, at the very last round, both of the cuffs and on the waistband, I decreased 6 stitches just to get more tightness going on in the wristband and the bottom band. I always put some elastic into my bands, into my wrists and waistband, because I never managed to get quite as a narrow band as I would like to. But in this case, I really was adamant to get that to fit without having to put elastics into it. And decreasing the 6 stitches on the waistband and on the cuffs at the very end was probably what did the trick. I think it looks quite fantastic there. Did I do anything else? The last thing is a tubular bind off. I use tubular bind off almost for everything. I tried different bind offs, but I think a tubular bind off is the one that works the best. Over time, though, I found that my bind offs are a bit messy at the beginning, at the end, where you join in the beginning and the end of the round. Now, if you don't have in mind what a tubular bind off is, probably this entire speech that I'm about to give you won't make any sense. Anyway, when you do a tubular bind off, you usually put on hold in some stitch markers, stitch holders, the first 2 stitches, the pearl one and the knit one. And then you pick them up at the end when you finish your bind off to be then sewn in with the ends. That part for me is always very messy, and although it's been fine, I don't mind, it's always been there a bit of annoyance. So the thing that I found works well, instead of binding off, instead of putting the first 2 stitches on stitch markers, stitch holders, you call them, I do the motion of tubular bind off with the needle, but then I put the 2 stitches on the right needle. So then when you end the tubular bind off, the first 2 stitches are the last 2 of the tubular bind off. And then you sew them in and magically they disappear. You can't tell here where I bound off. Mind blowing. It's a bit fiddly, but it makes a lot of sense. I have here a works in progress, nothing to do with that, but to explain to you, let's say these are the first 2 stitches I have to bind off. I do my binding off, so into the pearl and back on the into the knit and back on the pearl. Instead of dropping them, I just put them on the right needle, both of them, And as you can see, I go on with my bind off, I come to here, and these two are the last two stitches. So the first two become the last two, and it disappears. It's magical. So take a note of that. It's something that I will probably do every time from now on. It's a bit fiddly once again, but it works really, really well. Sorry, I had to pause for a second. I'm technically on my lunch break, so I only have about 45 minutes to go before my second half of the day starts. You probably will see this video tomorrow because it's gonna be a long day, and yeah, I don't know if I have the strength of editing this video tonight. Anyway, tomorrow is fine. So let's go on with the Sirena sweater here. The last thing yarn I used. Use this yarn here that you see in a end of a ball type of situation. This is Drops Charisma, which is 100% wool by Drops. Extremely inexpensive, I think it's €2.50 a ball. And I use for this entire jumper 14 balls of yarn. A little less because I have a bit and a half left. So that is it. It's a DK yarn by Drops, 100% wool. It's a bit rough, I have to say. In the past I described this yarn as plasticky feeling, although there's no plastic. It's just quite hard. And you can definitely tell on your hands when you're knitting, especially cables, it's a bit rough. I have been using 2.5 centimeter needles for the ribbing and 3.5 for the body. This is what worked for me to get some gauge, the gauge going through as the pattern recommends. Anyway, the yarn being rough. Now, someone gave me the recommendation to use a hair product to get this yarn to block nice and soft. And I found that that recommendation really works well. So it's kind of a recipe. So once again, pen and paper, take a note here. First of all is, instead of using regular fabric, wool detergent, use Garnier shampoo. The one with the green label. The one to make your hair straight. That works fine. Otherwise, the Sunsilk Purple, if I'm right. I'm not really familiar with all of this, but I'm reporting what was told me. Any shampoo that is meant to straighten your hair will work fine for this situation. So, warm water, bucket of warm water, a good squeeze of straightening shampoo, and apparently that will help your fibers to relax and to get a little bit more straight, like your hair, which make a lot of sense to me, and I don't know why I haven't come to this conclusion before. I might have a bottle actually, let me grab it for you. Here we are. So I said Garnier is actually Pantene, this one. This happens to be shampoo and conditioner together, but the recommendation I was given was to use the shampoo only. I had to go out to buy this. My hair is naturally straight, so I never had to use this shampoo, but it turns out to smell amazing and actually gets the wool really soft, almost sleek. I don't know what's inside the shampoo to work so well, but it does. So you do the bath for that, you leave it there for a while, and then you use a hair mask. This one from Garnier, this happened to be in my bathroom products already, so You don't need, well, I didn't need to go and buy this, but the recommendation told me to use a hair mask. A hair mask that is meant to bring some moisture into your hair and some volume as well. And I think this works fine. This happens to be 98% vegan, natural. All of the thing is quite inexpensive as well, and it smells beautifully too. So the second bath that you do for this wool is a blob of hair mask in a bucket, warm water. Dunk your jumper in and let it sit for another hour or two, or until you are ready to block it. Then a usual thing, squeeze out all the water, block it on your blocking mat. And apart from the fact that your jumper will smell beautifully, it's actually really soft. And this has worked wonder. I wonder if I can apply the same hair routine system to other jumpers that I have that are really too coarse, too harsh. And I might actually try with some let low-piece jumpers that I have there. Anyway, combination of a straightening shampoo and a hair mask is brilliant. Warmly recommend, and thank for the recommendation to this person. Now I forgot the name, but I will thank them for if they watch this. What am I saying? I'm completely blathering. Let's go on with the podcast. So this was my first and last finished works. As I said, my job situation changed, so I am working much longer hours than I used to. On the top of that, I was mentioning last week, I embarked myself into learning or relearning Latin, which is extraordinarily interesting but extraordinarily time consuming. You need to be there to spend at least an hour a day on the book, doing some translation or studying the actual grammar. And it takes a lot of memory to get eventually there. I mentioned that I've been studying Latin in high school, though I completely forgot everything, like, the classical couple of sentences you remember, but how to approach a translation, that's gone. And I blame my university for this. Law school in Italy is traumatic. You get to learn by heart every single code of law that is being published in the country. Anyway, it's so complicated. So I think all my memory during university was basically clear out to make space for law that then I didn't keep in. So why, I wonder. Anyway, learning Latin is becoming some sort of obsession for me. I'm really focused, and it really helps me a lot to find back the love for thinking, reading, a bit of mindfulness as well, because it's kind of magical. When you get the right translation on a sentence or on a text, something clicks in your mind. And by the way, my sister, which she's 14, 15 years younger than me, so she's just out of high school, and she did my same high school, so she had to go through Latin, and she absolutely despised it. She's mocking me every single day for this thing of restudying Latin. So if you are mocking me, never mind, it's fine, I'm used to it. But yeah, it's quite nice to get into that. So it's taking a lot of time, so not much knitting going on. Something though that I am doing as a work in progress is this thing here. I'm almost embarrassed to show you. It's just a piece of ribbing. this is the beginning of the Cortina sweater by Bitten Eriksen, 1956. So I can show you everything because A, it's a document that I put together, and B, it's a free pattern. This is on the image, the jumper that I'm making. I think I'm not gonna make it exactly like that, but modify it a little bit. So, first of all, the pattern. It's a pattern for free that you can find on a very beautiful website called House of Yarns. The amount of free patterns that I have is absolutely astonishing, and Cortina, the range of Cortina jumpers is there as well, along with the version that I made before in fingery weight, designed by Arne and Carlos. If you are ever out of inspiration for knitting, or if you don't have a budget to spend on new pattern, jump on the House of Yarn, or what it was back in the days, Dallegarn website, and you will be finding A, inspiration, and B, a ton of patterns. You get bored of scrolling down hundreds and hundreds of patterns, all for free. Now, 95-98% of these patterns are either in Swedish or Norwegian. This as well was in Swedish, I think, if I'm right, or Norwegian, one of the two. So we have magical tools that I'm gonna explain you now to translate this pattern into English or any other languages that you think of. I've done this many times. I think there's been a change in technology though. Let me explain to you the process. You download your pattern in any language that you want, copy all the pattern into a Google Doc, which is a free writing document management platform offered by Google, and you automatically have it if you have a Gmail email address, for example. You can get one. It's completely free. Now you copy your PDF document into the Google Doc, and you select all from the Google Doc. Option, translate into, choose your language, in this case English. Bang, the document is translated into English without any or minimal errors. Now, there was a piece that was formatted weirdly because it came from a PDF file. So when you move a PDF file into a Word document or a text document, sometimes it gets messy. So what I've done there is going back on my computer on the PDF file, opening the Google Translate on my phone with the camera, pointing it to the document, and I got all the translation. So I could actually match the translation with the already translated document in the Google Doc. I hope it makes sense. If you are interested in more details on this translation situation, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to make a little tutorial, but it's just really simple. Let me repeat for you. You get your pattern as PDF file in any language that you want. Free pattern, boat pattern, never mind. Copy everything, put it into a Google Doc. Now, it's in the Google Doc, right? Select all, option or left click on the mouse, translate, and choose your language, and the document translates everything. If there is something that doesn't make sense, go into the translator app on your phone, point it to the original language of the document, and you get the translation in English or in your language, and you can compare. Now, I've done this before in the past, and that was kind of difficult to understand, especially abbreviation, for example, stuff like that. They are quite tricky. But I think Google had implemented some sort of artificial intelligence, AI, situation to work through this type of issues. So the translation that I got here is absolutely perfect. There's no word missing. Everything makes sense in perfect English, probably better than I could write myself. So it's a win, and it opens a lot of possibilities for patterns that are perhaps free in other languages, but you can't understand. So back to the pattern itself. Cortina sweater, I knitted before a version by Arne and Carlos. It was a jumper that was created for the Olympics in Cortina, which is a town very close by where I was born and raised. The Olympics are going back next year to Cortina after, 70 years. And it's just a nice classic pattern to be worked in. I am using the last bit of this Drops Charisma, and I'm gonna pair it probably with Peer Gynt charcoal color. This is the same yarn weight, same composition, different brand. I have about 5 balls of this charcoal left from probably other projects that I made in the past. They have no use right now by themselves because they are not enough for a full garment. They are probably too many for the color work of this jumper. Now, I am thinking, because the pattern has 3 colors, I think I want to do just 2 colors. That beigey color and a contrasting color for the color work. I'm not forcing the white band in the middle there. But because these are probably too many for that, I think it might make sense for me to use other yarns, like a Holst yarn held double, perhaps in a dark green color, which I have in stash. So I'm at the first stage of figuring out this jumper as I go through. I definitely need to buy more Drops Charisma in this color, but that is not a problem. It's locally available. With the next pay that will come hopefully in a couple of weeks, I might be able to get some more of the Peer Gynt, and I really want to get some of the speckly Peer Gynt with different speckles of different colors. So I might add to the order a few balls of this charcoal to get to have a jumper quantity, but I don't know yet. Anyway, I'm open to suggestion for the color work. What do you think would look nicer? A dark gray with this beige here, or perhaps something more muted like a dark green or a brown. A brown would be nice as well now that I think of it. Let me know what you think. Open to suggestion. The jumper itself is quite easy. It starts from the bottom and goes up. You have sticking on the sleeves. I'll go through that when I'm at that point, probably in my next podcast. Sticking is not something that I'm afraid of. Just take a bit of fussing around with the yarn, but nothing else. Something that I've done here is another tubular buying a cast on this time, and I find that cast-ons are always better than bind-offs, so I do prefer myself a bottom-up jumper. I did a tubular 2x2, so I had to do a regular tubular cast-on and then move the stitches to do a 2x2. It's quite easy, it doesn't really require much brain to do that, and it's really effective as well. Last thing I wanted to mention before we move, and I'm checking my calendar that is there because I have a meeting starting in a while. You've seen this many times. This is my crochet granny square blanket that is happening as we speak. I find this beautiful crochet pattern here on YouTube. It's very easy to make. It takes a bit of yarn, but yeah, it's at least very dense. So what I was looking for in terms of blanket, crochet blanket. And the beauty of this project is that I'm getting very slowly rid of a lot of sock yarn that I have in stash and that I'm not using. I am using a 3.5 millimeter hook, and I'm holding my sock yarn double, creating many combination of colors as we go. And I think this will turn out fantastic in time. I have no time frame for this. I think I have around 40 squares made, and I probably need about 200 to make a cover for to fit my bed. So a bit of work still to do. Something though that I'm looking to understand is how to join granny squares, and I really want to join them with a crochet rather than sew them together. So if you have any recommendation for me on a nice border that goes well around the granny squares and I can join them as I go, that would make my life so much easier. So please link me to any videos, any tutorials that any ideas to join this huge amount of squares together with a hook perhaps. That would be lovely. So let's move on from the knitting, but staying into the knitting world. Something that I discovered lately is the huge amount of jumpers that I have in my wardrobe that I don't really need. And they are all knitted stuff that I made in the past for, I don't know, an exercise thing, like to understand new techniques, or to make something that I thought would work fine in my wardrobe that I would wear, but I end up not wearing, being the yarn that I use, being the garment themselves, being that my taste change in time, and so on and so forth. So this huge amount of garments and accessories have been sitting there forever. Every now and then I give one or two to charity, but I have been told by the local charity that I'm a kind of supporting with second-hand clothes and stuff like that, that they don't need more clothes. Unfortunately, people, I don't know if it's an Irish thing or a global thing, people buy a lot of clothing, of cheap clothing, on websites like Shein, Temu, AliExpress, or out of shops like Pennies here, or Primark, H&M, whatever. And the clothes themselves, like a t-shirt, could cost as low as a couple of euros. So they bring them into the shops, and the shops can't sell them for 50 cents a piece. So it's from what I understand, they have a huge backlog is the word, a huge storage full of very inexpensive clothing that I cannot sell. They're not able to sell or give away. It's very difficult for them to manage this thing. So What I was told is to wait until bring more stuff there, or to find another charity, which is understandable and fair enough. Something that I found out is that in Ireland it came a website that is already very famous all around Europe, which is called Vinted. It's a platform where you can kind of sell second-hand clothing or other stuff. And I have been putting up some of my old jumpers there. Of course, I can't charge the full amount that I actually spent on the yarn, on the time, effort, and all of that. I put a nominal price there. Some of the money goes automatically to a charity based in Ukraine, if I'm right. Anyway, you should check Vinted and they tell you everything. And the other, the remaining part of the money is helpful for me to get some more yarn and keep up with this knitting situation that, by the way, is extraordinarily expensive, but you already know that. So I've been selling some jumpers, some accessories on Vinted. Something quite special happened that someone bought two of my jumpers, a beautiful colorwork jumper and my red Billy pullover. And this person contacted me on the platform, sent me a message saying, I'm learning to knit and I am really looking forward to learn more about how a jumper is knitted. And the process that this person go through is to analyze a jumper and hand knit a jumper and make them own up the technique. Does it make sense what I'm saying? So I found that really beautiful because the jumper itself was not just going to someone that would wear it, but really to someone that would appreciate that as a piece of craft. So I don't mind that I undersold those jumpers, but yeah, it makes a lot of, it makes me feel really, really well that my hand knitted pieces are going to be loved by someone else. But if you're interested in checking out what I am selling on Vinted, I will put the link below if I ever know there is a link. Anyway, if you never found out a link, you can unravel it, use the yarn again, and you will have decent quality yarn for basically nothing. I can't myself unravel jumpers. It breaks my little knitting heart, so it's better if someone else do it. Talking about that briefly, I wanted to thank you all for the support you've given me as well on Ko-fi. Really, coffee is something unexpected. So every time I receive a couple of euros from one of you through Ko-fi, it's like literally sitting down and having a coffee with someone. It's filling my heart. But let's just close this bracket. Let's go on into books that I'm reading. This is a piece of chats that I'm enjoying very much lately, and a lot of you guys seems to be knitters, artists, and as well readers, so it makes a lot of sense, and I'm enjoying a lot of the chats around that. So last week I finished the Cow book. I talk enough about that book in my social media, and if you are interested in having a bit of a review of that book, go back to my previous episode. Brilliant book by John O'Connell, an Irish writer. I'm not going to tell you anything else about that because it's already done. I talk about that. It was really painful to read, and we're on the next one, which is this one. The Fall of Giants by Ken Follett. As you know, Ken Follett is one of my favorite writers. Plenty of books they heard about Ken Follett. I read them so quickly. I don't know if it's the way he writes or the topics he chooses, the stories, is just like mindfulness and the epitome of the meaning of the word. It's escapism, it's everything you want from a good book that as well makes you think, makes you be more empathetic, brings you there to the places and with the people that the author is talking about. It's brilliant. So I read before The Pillar of Earth and all that saga, and that was beautiful, brought you back to the Middle Ages, was great. This saga, it's the first book of a trilogy, if I'm right. This take place before and during First World War. There's love, there's war, psychology inside it. It's really beautiful, and it's been only a few days and I read more than half of it. So it's really capturing. I really recommend this. I need to be quite careful on how much I read of this book, because I end up just spending hours sitting and reading. And considering all that I have to do, considering my new Latin study, it's not healthy just to sit and read for a long time, all the time, basically. But yeah, this is going to be my companion for a while. And I have already the trilogy, so that will be bringing me up to probably the end of the month. And then we'll be open for new books or recommendation. Last bit of talking for me, and it's been a lot of talking, and again, I have to start working in 15 minutes. So, art. Let's talk about art. You see me doing a lot of watercolors lately, but I kind of got a little bit back into oil paint. So, if you are completely unfamiliar with that, watercolor says the word water-based paint, so you paint with water. Very thin layers, very ethereal type of painting. You don't really know what you get. Oil paint, oil-based paint. So the paint is thick. You apply big layers of paint, exactly what you want the paint to go. It doesn't have any surprise. It doesn't take much of fussing about with the paint. So watercolor gave me some of the mindfulness of not really being sure what to get. Oil paint is giving me the reassurance that at the end of the painting session I will have something that I envisioned, that I wanted, because the paint go in precise spots is a bit more mathematical, if I can say. Anyway, I got back into painting with oils, and I painted a couple of Guinness-inspired painting. This one is a bottle of Guinness and a glass, a pint glass. This is inspired by some print, some picture I found on the internet. I unfortunately don't remember the author of this, but it's not, as we say in Italian, flower of my back. It's not completely from myself, but it's my version of a different painting. What is from my own vision is this one here. This is just a pint glass. What I have in common, what I try to study in this case, is the combination between the dark backgrounds and the darkness of the pint of the beer itself. You can see the glass almost disappears into the background. Is a technique that I have been toiling with for quite a while, but I never got to actually put it in practice. And I'm really pleased with this. This is absolutely gorgeous. It's not flashy, and at the same time, it does get you the idea of what's on the canvas itself. I think this is basically lines of colors almost put randomly, but together they make sense in terms of the picture. I think this is some psychological theory where you join points together. If I'm right, it's called like the theory of Gestalt or something like that. Google it, because it's very interesting. So yeah, this is what I have been doing lately, and gave me a lot of pleasure in terms of rediscovering oil painting and rediscovering the possibility of learning with painting. In this case, learning to deal with dark colors and putting dark on dark on dark on dark. So it's very interesting, very interesting. If you're interested in getting one of these original, you can find them on my website, irishfarmart.com. I am speaking too fast all the time. I decided to ditch Etsy because of the amount of money Etsy as a platform take from the sale of my painting. So to avoid overcharging people, I decided to just ditch them, build my own website. At least I know that I get 100% of the money, I can charge people less, and so on and so forth. Anyway, that was it for today. Now I will need to take a couple of pictures of this jumper, put them on Instagram, edit this video, and go on with working. As I realized, next week is St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody, and I really hope I can share some images of the parade, the crack in Dublin going on, and I will see you very soon with a next podcast. Bye bye.